Have you ever stared into the mirror and felt a quiet tremor in your soul, thinking, "Who am I really?" Not because something broke, but because something inside is waking, shifting, dissolving. Your goals no longer spark fire. Your relationships feel like distant echoes. The world spins loudly around you, yet a sacred silence has settled within. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are dissolving, peeling away the masks the world taught you to wear. This is the moment no one whispers about, when the ego softens and the soul begins to murmur. Step with me now, into a place few dare to enter, beneath your name, beneath your roles, beneath all the stories you were told to be. Here in the quiet, there is no emptiness. There is everything. On this inner path, a moment arrives that cannot be predicted. No music, no fireworks, no grand arrival, only a gentle death. Not of the body, but of the identity you spent a lifetime shaping. The achiever, the pleaser, the fighter, the performer. One by one they loosen their hold. The armor melts. The mirror no longer reflects a stranger you recognize. And for a fleeting heartbeat, fear rises. If I am not this, then who am I? Do not run. Do not resist. This trembling is sacred. The ego is simply a frightened child, desperate for definition, but now it is learning to rest. And as the grip loosens, something eternal begins to stir inside. The witness, the silent self that sees without judgment, feels without clinging, exists without needing to perform. You are not the thoughts that flash like lightning. You are not the emotions that crash like waves. You are the vastness that allows both to rise and fall. You are the light that makes the mirror possible, as IbnArabi whispered centuries ago. Each step inward is like a secret being unveiled. Pain softens, sorrow transforms, and even the quiet spaces between your breaths hum with presence. You are coming home, not to a place, but to yourself. And in this return, everything the world tried to teach you to value falls away, leaving only what was always real. Your soul, free and luminous. If your heart felt this whisper, don't keep it silent. Drop it in the comments and share this journey. Subscribe and walk with us inward, because the path doesn't end. It deepens. The mask doesn't fit the same. The mirror no longer reflects someone you recognize. And it's disorienting because this mask, this identity has protected you. It helped you survive. It gave you language when you didn't know what to say. It gave you applause when you needed to be seen. But now it begins to dissolve, and the first thing you feel is fear. If I am not this, then who am I? That question doesn't come from curiosity. It comes from panic. It comes from the ego, which lives on definition. Without something to cling to, it trembles. Because the ego isn't evil. It's just afraid. It's a child that never learned to rest. It's a house built on sand trying to act like stone. And so when you stop feeding it, when you stop chasing validation or defending your story, it starts to fall apart piece by piece. You don't feel like you're becoming enlightened. You feel like you're unraveling. You stop craving the same things. Conversations feel empty. Goals feel heavy. The roles you played so well no longer feel like home. You wonder why nothing feels right. Why even beauty feels distant. Why your favorite song sounds flat. But that is not the end. That is the beginning. This is the moment the mystics knew well. The moment when the outer skin begins to crack, when the shell that kept the soul safe now becomes its cage. When silence enters the room like a teacher, not a punishment. And what happens next is subtle. You begin to hear things differently, not through your ears, but through your being. Someone speaks to you with anger, and instead of reacting, you feel their pain underneath. You walk into a crowded room and feel the loneliness behind the noise. You sit alone and don't feel alone at all because now the space inside you is expanding. It's no longer filled with self-commentary. There is stillness, space between the thoughts. And in that space, something ancient begins to rise. The part of you that isn't afraid, the part of you that doesn't rush, the part of you that watches without judgment, the witness. You realize that you are not the thoughts, but the one who sees them. You are not the emotion, but the space it passes through. You are not even the body, but the awareness that animates it. And this realization doesn't come like a thunderbolt. It comes in gentle waves, small moments. You breathe and realize you've never truly breathed before. You look at the sky and see it for the first time, not as background, but as a living mirror of your own mind. The mystic IbnArabi once said, "You are not the reflection in the mirror. You are the light that makes the mirror possible." You begin to understand that every time you chased identity, you were chasing a shadow. Every time you tried to find yourself, you looked in the wrong place because you were never lost, only buried beneath habits, beneath wounds, beneath the desire to be loved in the wrong language. Now you are uncovering slowly, gently, painfully. This uncovering feels like fire. You may weep. You may feel rage. You may want to run back to the old identity, the old distractions, the comforting cage. But something in you won't let you because now you have tasted something real and you can't go back to plastic. Once you've tasted the fruit of truth, your relationships shift. Some people drift away, not out of rejection, but out of resonance. You no longer pretend. You no longer wear masks to make others comfortable. You start telling the truth not as a weapon, but as a song, and not everyone will like it. That's okay, because now you are not speaking to be accepted. You are speaking because silence has taught you how to hear. And this hearing, this seeing transforms everything. You begin to see people differently, not as objects, not as roles, not as threats, but as reflections. Mirrors, teachers, wounded travelers, just like you. Some awake, some asleep, all holy. You forgive more easily, not because you're a saint, but because you no longer want to carry that weight. You begin to understand that holding on to pain doesn't protect you, it poisons you. And when you release it, you feel lighter, brighter, realer. The ego begins to bow. Not in defeat, but in reverence. It starts to take its rightful place, not as the driver, but as the passenger, a useful tool, no longer the ruler. You still have preferences. You still set boundaries, but now they come from clarity, not fear. You start to live differently. You move more slowly, speak more intentionally, breathe more fully. You stop asking, "What do they think of me?" and start asking, "Is this true to my soul?" Joy returns, but not the kind that depends on circumstances. A quieter joy, one that sits with you in silence and smiles for no reason. You begin to create again, not to be seen, but because creation is your nature. You begin to love again, not because you're lonely, but because love is what you are made of. You become strange to the world, but deeply familiar to yourself. This is ego dissolution, and it is not a loss. It is a homecoming. The you that disappears was never real. The you that remains was never born and will never die. You begin to understand the words of the mystics. You begin to feel the poems in your bones. Have you ever felt the ground shift beneath you, as if everything you knew was dissolving? You begin to remember what you never knew you forgot. You begin to live from the center, the quiet core that has always been there. From this center, the world does not need to change, but the way you see it does. Everything becomes sacred, even the pain, even the waiting, even the silence between words. So if you are dissolving, keep going. If you feel lost, pause. If everything you held dear seems to crumble, trust the crumble. You are not breaking down. You are breaking open, and from this opening, what emerges is not weakness, it is light. The light you have always carried, before the stories, before the roles, before the fear. The real you, the silent one, the witness. Welcome home. If this touched your soul, drop a in the comments, share it with someone seeking stillness, and subscribe to Walk Inward with us, because the journey to yourself never ends, it deepens.